I was going to start with this situation involving the national emergency, the president calling for that to increase border security, build the steel barrier wall.
I would disagree with you. It's not to increase border security. He got a budget increase to do border security. He's received increases for border security in both a democratically controlled and a Republican controlled Congress. Every single year we get an appropriation. It includes, barriers, fencing. It's saying use the evidence for each segment of the border and ports of entry that would give you more border security. His national emergency is because he didn't get wall funding. And without wall funding, he's making it clear that he's not really, even though he's signed, I'll take whatever money you give me, but I'm still going to use this declaration to take projects that are really important to my military assets in my state, that are about national security, where there isn't an emergency at the border. So he's sacrificing my role in the national security and nuclear safety complex because he has a campaign promise. So for me, it's two separate sets of issues.
And what's New Mexico's position on this going forward? I know that they've joined the lawsuit, but what do you want to see in place of the national emergency in terms of security?
Yeah, I've asked Homeland Security to be more engaged about using their own data to make recommendations to the White House and Congress, So we're using their data that says, look, your internal enforcements that are high risk, I want you to go after all of the drug trafficking, human trafficking, all the high risk activities. That enforcement is down. You're not putting people at the ports of entry. You're spending tens of millions of dollars. They certainly were until I pulled the Guard back on the National Guard. You're not hiring agents. You're not finding the tools to hire agents. You have the money to do that, but you aren't doing that. I know that if you have more drones, more cameras, more dogs, more personnel, and we really focus on where nefarious activity occurs, which is largely at ports of entry. You want to do something about drugs? Do something about all the fentanyl that gets shipped via the U.S. mail. So I want all of that work at the federal government. I want that partnership. I take all these issues seriously. New Mexicans want us to take those seriously, but they want us to actually tackle it from a meaningful way. And this declaration, which I think is legally dubious, which is why we've joined that lawsuit, also, in addition to those assets and those investments that my state needs, it now affects private property owners, it affects the environment, it impacts my trade relationship with Mexico, and it does nearly nothing to tackle real risks at the border, and it continues to drive a humanitarian crisis. All of that, I think, is wrong.
How do you respond to some members of Congress who have pointed out that if there is no increased barriers on some of the open areas of the border, then border agents, U.S. agents would be human shields and human barriers, and they would be in harm's way instead of a physical...
These are members of Congress that are not at the border and haven't been participating in the border. And line staff, not the leadership who have to do what the executive is telling them to do, will tell you they need road maintenance and they need more cameras and they need technology. And I'll tell you what they really need: communication strategies, which is what I'm investing in the areas where they need that. Those are meaningful investments. And again, portraying that risk is an unfair portrayal, and these are largely by folks who support the White House in Congress who don't live at the border or don't represent border constituents.